that shows, that for the purchasing managers now, it's not only about exporting, but also about importing because of the domestic demand is strong. So I think, as the economy goes through the structural adjustment, different sectors obviously will fare differently. But in terms of the overall economy, I would say that is probably the right direction to go. But I have to have one qualification on that. We talk about the demographics in China and the implications of Chinese growth. I think the positive side is more balanced growth because of stronger consumption. But there is one negative side of that. That is, on the supply side, labor force is going to peak. And therefore, the increase in labor force in the future will no longer be a significant source of economic growth in China, which has been a significant source of economic growth. And therefore, my view is that over the longer term, we are going to see some slowdown in Chinese growth, trend growth, because of this demographic change. Slower growth, but a more balanced growth. Thank you.
A real shift in the economic balance then. Fanny, does that fit with what you see and your clients see?
Basically, I support what the two gentlemen have said. We see many of our clients have recognized that they cannot continue just to bid on price. The wages have been increasing and they are facing the labor shortage. So they move to look at more on improving the technology, the product quality, and even looking at having their own brand. So that will be a good move for many of the exporters. And I think if you look at the good side about the crisis, that gives them the breathing space or the time to think about how they should do their business better. So that we see is a kind of increasing trend among some of the manufacturers and exporters in Hong Kong.
Yeah, that's what we want to see, but it's not very easy. I mean, as I was pointing out, there are many countries which tried that before, and not all of them have been successful. I think China is doing the right things to be successful in terms of investment in education, in research and development. But it's not only that. The world is changing too fast. You need to be flexible. You need creativity. You need to find the new sectors. Of course, there will be a great improvement for those, for that labor force that will be more scarce. But it will be better prepared, better educated. There will be, higher value-added products to produce. Again, it's not all about products. You need the services. That's, everywhere in the developed world, that's the largest share of GDP. So I really think you need to move towards services for China to be better balanced economy. It's not only about value added, although that's already a great improvement. Yeah.
So a virtuous long-term trend with long-term risks if China can't create the sort of service sector that other developed economies have already evolved. Richard, from the point of view of our host today, Coface, long-term virtuous trend, but what about the short-term risks?
Yes, well, thank you very much. And I just would like to say that for clearly 2008 and 2009 were extremely difficult years. We saw in a number of presentations how precipitous the fall off in world trade was, and this had a obviously for us as an organisation and for many of our customers a very, very damaging effect. We saw levels of claims that we've never seen before, levels of risks which we've never seen before. What we've seen though is a relatively quick rebound in the last few months, and the first indications in 2010 for us here with our operations in Asia, in the Greater China region, are that our customers are seeing better order flow. Their order books are filling up to some degree. we're not sure yet whether it's the end of a restocking cycle or whether it's real sustainable demand. And then I'd have to break down country by country, but we think that probably the trends are that exports to the US are reflecting real demand, whereas towards other developed markets, Europe, for example, they were a restocking phenomena in anticipation of more growth, and now, well, we may not see that continuing in Europe, given the current conditions. But we are also seeing increased demand from our customers for what we call our credit limits, for the risk we take on other emerging markets, and particularly other Asian markets. So that's reflecting some of the shift of the trend towards exporting more towards emerging markets or regional markets. Where we will have a problem, I think, though, and this comes one of the lessons from the crisis for us, was the very great need with this development and this rebalancing of world trade, there's going to have to be increased transparency in these markets. It's going to help for us to be able to support the risk and to take the risks, and therefore to help our customers export towards these markets. We have to see an increase in the amount of transparency, and by that I mean basically information about the importers, and that helps us to enable us to take the risk. So I think that's some of the sort of comments I would want to make.
Thank you very much. Now, we promise not to keep you here too long away from your lunch, but we have just the chance for a couple of questions from the floor. If I can ask our audience if we have any questions for our assembled panelists here. Well, once again, we seem to have done an excellent job in answering everyone's queries. They're overwhelmed. In which case, because we are a little bit over time.
If you allow me to ask one question, and that's to Fanny, is on finally a question which we had earlier in the previous panel, but I think you would be very well positioned to answer. Is we hear a lot about the funding, the financing in China going all to infrastructure projects and very little going to real business. How is your bank looking at that?
Well, in fact, we are also supporting what you said, non-infrastructure counterparty, because we are also a commercial bank. We are heavily in trade finance as well, and in fact, we see the financing in China has been tightened, but it's in general the government is supporting banks or institutions to support the exporters. And we also see some of the insurers also getting more active, like Siloshore. They are supporting a lot of the exporters to get credit. And in Hong Kong, the government has done a good job in providing the SPGS loan, and that has helped to prevent credit squeeze on SME. So far, we see the trade financing increasing, and that is in line with the recovery in import and export. And just now, you have mentioned a good point. If you talk about helping companies to expand in the emerging market, the part on getting more transparent on the counterparty, the buyers they are dealing with, if they can get credit based on their sales to the buyer there, that will help them in doing the export a lot faster. But now the transparency in information may hinder the development of that. So agency like your institution may help the exporters to do a bit better in that regard.
Thank you very much.